Alright, welcome everybody. This is gonna be my first build guide for last Epoch. We have a really nice build here. It's a Runemaster, and we're using Runic invocation as our main damage spell. We're gonna be using Plasma Orb. I'm gonna show you how the build works. Basically, our Runic invocation makes the Plasma Orb orbit around us. The collision of the Plasma Orb with any enemy causes fire damage hits. And as you can see, we also getting lightning arcs at every 0.4 seconds, and those lightning arcs can hit up to 5 enemies. The rotation of the build is pretty simple. We are massing right click for Firebolt and for Runebolt, and we're just spamming Runic invocation and Flame Rush at cooldown. Our Flame Rush is proccing both Runic invocation and Static Orb, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit more later. As you can see, the damage that we're getting on this dummy is pretty high. It's also a lot of hits. So the build has extremely good clear. When you have 3 orbs orbiting around you, you're getting a lot of lightning arcs, so all the packs around you in echoes, they're exploding. We have a pretty high single target as well, which is really good, and I've managed to push over 500 corruption with this build very easily without caring about any monolith mods. Also, the good thing about this build is that even if you're rushing to a mission objective during your echoes, you're gonna be killing a lot of monsters around you. So basically, if you're pushing over 400 corruption, you're gonna be dropping a lot of loot. So it is my best monolith farmer so far. It does a lot of very good, generally speaking, with bosses as well. Monolith bosses are absolutely no problem. I've done pretty good at arena. I've hit 465 waves right now. That's my highest. I'm not an arena player. I'm fairly confident the build can do a lot more than that. If an arena player set it up a little bit more suitable for it, and of course use her experience for more arena. Now let's talk about the skills first. I'm just gonna mention that we're using Mad Alchemist Ladle for this build. It's gonna be important when I go through the skills. We're gonna go through Flame Rush first of all. Flame Rush, we have a pretty standard setup. We're getting cooldown recovery rate and mana efficiency here, the reduced damage taken, and the buff duration after we stop channeling. A little bit extra word per second, which is pretty good. Frenzy duration on exit, this is basically 100% uptime with my current cooldown recovery rate, because we got 1.9 second cooldown on Flame Rush. Epilogue is one of the most important ones. We are casting Runic invocation on exit. Keep in mind that this adds extra mana cost. It's important when we talk about it in the Runic invocation tree. We're converting our Flame Rush into lightning, and we are also proccing Static Orb. We're converting into lightning because we want fire, light, and fire when it comes to runes for our Runic invocation. And we're using Flame Rush on our second slot for that purpose, and also Static Orb because we're proccing some good things out of it. I'm gonna show you in just a second. 1 point here just for traveling, and 3 points. This becomes light and shred resistances when you're passing through enemies, so it's another ailment for our Mad Alchemist Ladle, and of course it's a little bit extra damage for our light damage. Now, Static Orb, we don't have a lot of things to talk about Static Orb. Most important part is that we are grabbing orbital fulmination so that the Static Orb orbits around us, and we're getting the minus mana cost. This is really important for this build, otherwise you're gonna have issues sustaining mana. We're also converting it into cold for one very specific reason. The shock chance that we're getting here was 150%. It becomes frostbite chance. So that also adds another ailment for our Mad Alchemist Ladle. 1 point here just to travel, 4 points here. This is one of the most important ones. We're getting lightning edges for 8 seconds. We have 100% uptime on our lightning edges through our Flame Rush this way, and it's also important because we take advantage of some idols. Now the rest of the points, you got about 7 points left. They're not very important, you can put them wherever you want. I have 2 points here just for a little bit extra projectile speed. It's nothing too important. I've used 5 points here early on when I was progressing through our monolith. That gave me a little bit of freezing here and there that helped me a little bit surviving more. But when you start pushing corruption, that doesn't do anything. You can use your last 7 points as you wish. Now, our flame ward, pretty standard setup, 2 points, 1 point, 2 points just to travel, and 1 point for the dual edges. We're getting the extra charge. We are using a unique chest piece, so we cannot grab extra charges on our flame ward, so this is very important. 5 points for the less hit damage taken. 3 points here for extra mitigation against elemental damage. 3 points on the duration, and the rest of your points, they're just going here. This is fire damage. Fire damage is also pretty good. You could go ward per second if you want, or something else. Mana efficiency, if you have issues with your mana sustain, it doesn't really matter. Those 4 points here, they're kind of flexible. If you need something else, you can get it, no problem. Now for our Runebolt. Runebolt is a spell that we're using mostly for his utility. We're getting 4 points here on the Arcane Restoration. We're getting 12 mana gain when we're hitting an enemy with our Runebolt, so that sustains our mana very easily. Runeweave stacks are also pretty important, not for the mana reason that we're getting from this, but for this node right here, Dissolve and Conquer, we're getting extra 7% more elemental damage done, because we do have enough armor strength stacks on our targets almost instantaneously. It's you only need 14 to max it out, so it's very easy. And keep in mind that generic more spell damage and more elemental damage scales all of our damage in this build, because we're doing both lightning and fire damage. Now before you get the rest of the points, I mean, you're gonna get 5 points here, extra projectiles, just a little bit quality of life, and auto targets, very important. So always gonna be hitting enemies, and you're gonna be getting your mana back. Now after those points are done in your tree, you can get 3 points here on the Cosmic Tapestry. This is 3 points that are gonna give you plus 3 extra flat crit on your Runic invocation. You only need this before you manage to get good gear and enough intelligence to scale your crit. After you do that, and you have you are almost crit capped or crit capped, you don't need those points here. And then we're going into the good setup. We are going 1 in Arcanist, and we're converting into fire right here, and we're grabbing 3 points in Attune Recovery. This is really important because we're converting into a Firebolt. We're getting 75 health whenever our Runebolts are hitting, and it's extremely important because it helps with our health sustain and evidently with our ward generation through Twisted Heart of Chaos. We're getting a little bit of haste here. It's not very consistent, so I'm not even counting. Haste is unfortunately something that we cannot really get very reliably on the build, but it is what it is. Now for the last part, Runic Invocation, the most important spell of course in our arsenal. That's our main damage dealing spell. We're getting 4 points into Attune Approach, and before I talk about this one, I want to go right here in the Author of Arcana. Now, Author of Arcana gives us 100% mana refund when we're casting Runic Invocation, but this is only for direct casts. That means that our Flame Rust that is cast in Runic Invocation, it's expending a lot of mana. If you see right here, we're 59 mana cost, and that's multiplied 125%. So your mana cost after Flame Rust Runic Invocation is really high, but we do apply this mana refund into those casts, So basically we are only paying 60% of that mana cost, and it's really important because we can easily sustain our mana with a few Runebolt cast, and we don't need a lot more Runebolts to fill up our mana pool. Now we're getting 3 points here. Runeslinger, this is not extremely important to max out, but I like it just for quality of life, because when you are doing your rotation, having a nice cast speed on your Runic invocation is really good. It's gonna make your rotation even smoother. We're getting 4 points here. This is flat spellfire damage, very important, and also we're getting Ignite Suns. We have a rare rune, so we're getting 80% Ignite Suns, very good. Now we are going to Scriber of Power. This is a little bit of extra buff. It's 8 flat spell damage, very good to complement our lack of spell damage from Mad Alchemist Ladle, and 8% extra cast speed, always nice to have. 3 points here, very important. This is our flat crit with our Gone runes, and also we're getting Soft Sands. So basically our Runic invocation straight up gives us 2 ailments for Mad Alchemist Ladle. We're getting 1 point here, Elemental Lore. This is very strong node. We're getting a lot of elemental generic penetration that scales all of our damage. Immutable Order makes our runes being basically locked into the first 3 elemental skills in our bar. So I'm using fire, lightning, fire, and that gives us our plasma orb. And of course, cooldown recovery rate, we are maxing it. Now, a few things that I wanna mention about Runic invocation. This node here and this node here, these are the more damage multipliers of Runic invocation. Currently are bugged, they're not working. Once they're fixed, whenever they're fixed, maybe you can take 1 or 2 points from here, and maybe 1 or 2 points from here if you don't have any mana issues, and get a little bit more damage. Also, I have been informed that Elemental Lore apparently gives more damage than it's supposed to. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it gives more elemental penetration or something else is broken. But just to put you at ease, I've already tested without Elemental Lore at all. Our damage is already fine, and if it works properly, we're still gonna be getting a lot of penetration from it. So the damage of the build will not suffer. If it suffers, I already have another solution that we can use. So let's go to the planner right now. After the skills, we're gonna talk a little bit about our passives, and one quick thing I wanna mention about skills in the planner. All of the skills have one bar here that is about progression. This basically shows you what you should take in what priority when you're leveling up your build. Runemaster has a lot of ways of leveling up. We're gonna talk about it later though. Let's go to the passives. Same thing with the passives here, by the way. We have the progression bar. Let's start with the mage passives. 8 points here. Intelligence, extra resistances, very good. We are stacking as much intelligence as we can. We only need 2 points here on Elementalist for the extra damage, and 5 points here on Mage Flurry. The rest of the 5 points you can either put here when you are crit capped, or if you need a little bit of a more crit and crit multiplier, you can take 5 points on Knowledge of Distraction. These are a little bit flexible on these 3. Let's go to the sorcery real quick. We're getting 8 points here. This is what gives us from the threshold our spell crit chance per intelligence. Arcane momentum stacks, very important. Cast speed is one of our best stats to scale. We're getting 6 points here on Essence of Celerity. Spell damage is extremely important for the build. You will see why when we get into the gearing part. And also we're getting 6 points just for the extra movement speed. We don't scale a lot of movement speed, so anything we can get is really good. 1 point here and 5 points on the lightning penetration and lightning damage leads. On the Runemaster passive tree, 8 points of course in the Sphere of Protection, less the damage taken from ignited, soaked and sealed enemies. That's one of the most powerful ones in the Runemaster. 6 points here for the cast speed mainly. we're getting all the intelligence as I mentioned before, so arcane focus maxed and another 6 points of intelligence here. We don't really use the bonus damage from crits with the catalyst here. I'm gonna talk about it in the gearing part. Inscribed instruments, one of the most powerful nodes. We're getting 72% crit strike multiplier. 6 points here, a little bit more damage for bosses. You only need 5 just to get the threshold, which doubles it because we do have a run here. So, ancient inscriptions, that's what builds up our cooldown recovery rate based on intelligence. 8 points here. We're getting 2 points on the Hurricane Rune Guard and 2 points on the Infernal Rune Guard. We basically have 100% uptime on both of them, and this is extra flat. And also, because we are applying a good amount of shocks very fast on our enemies, we also get a little bit more armor per shock against our attackers. This will not show on your character sheet because it's one of the new mechanics that they brought this patch into the game, but it is dynamic and it's gonna be applied. 4 points here. This is a very powerful node. We're getting a more crit multi per 100 ward against bosses. The maximum is 20%. We're gonna be having 20% all the time when we're fighting bosses, even on echoes, so that's not a problem. And we're getting 7 points here. This is flat spell damage, and after you have that, your last 5 points is gonna be Brand of Deception. Now this is a node that does absolutely nothing for us, elemental penetration with damage over time, but the threshold node gives us our lighting skills, which Plasma Orb is a lighting skill. Brand of Deception, that's an extra element for our Mad Alchemist Ladle, so it's basically 8% more damage for 5 points, and another 7% more spell damage from the threshold here. So with this node we're getting an advance of 2, it's basically 17% more damage, 15% excuse me, for more damage for our 5 points here. Alright, after the passive tree, let's take a good look at our gear. This character was a little bit of a project. I wanted to use Runic Invocation as our main damage skill and Fundamental Criterion. This is one of the most interesting uniques in my opinion for a Rune Master. It gives you a lot of different opportunities to scale your damage. Now we are foregoing the more damage while using a scepter here because our first rune is indeed Ra, but we are scaling dexterity because our second rune is gone. So we're getting a lot of more damage multiplier from this chest. As you can see, I'm about 40 dexterity, which means 120% more damage. And if you can farm Fundamental Criterion with 1 LP, the fire penetration with fire invocations is really good if you have it on Exalted tier 6, because we're getting a lot of flat armor. That's really important for the build. We're getting over 300 flat armor just from this chest and from the blessing, and since we scale attributes and we're getting a nice flat strength from Twisted Heart of Eucharos, we're gonna be scaling our armor at a very good spot. Twisted Heart of Eucharos is another item. You do not need the tier 6 crit multi. I only have it here just to show you what's the best affix. If you have 1 LP Twisted Heart, you can try and hit the 25% for crit multi. You don't need it, but it's very nice to scale crit multi because of the Runemaster passive. Morning Frost. Now this was the weird, let's say, part of my scaling on our damage. We are scaling flat damage to our spells from our dexterity. So this combines very well with Fundamental Criterion. We do need as much flat damage as we can get due to Mad Alchemist Ladle lacking. So try to get 1 LP Morning Frost and get tier 6, tier 7 is even better. Cooldown recovery rate here, it's really good. It's definitely the best affix you can get. If you have 2 LP or more on your Morning Frost, You can hit movement speed, you can hit hybrid health, also really good because at the end game of our gear in progress, we do want to scale a little bit more health so that we can get more ward generation out of our Twisted Heart. So Under of the Arrest is one of the best items when it comes to gloves. For this build, we're getting extra cast speed, we're getting all attributes from this. Try to get one that you rolled dexterity on it, minimum tier 5, and you should be good. There are a lot of nice other things you can get. On your prefixes, you can get the extra cast speed, you can get intelligence, both are really good. And of course, on your suffixes, increased armor is also very nice, but you can get good resistances because we do have a little bit of trouble to cap all of our resistances on this build. We're using quite a few uniques. So if you can get some help from your Swalden of the Erased glove pairs, that's also really good. 2 opal rings, that's really important here. Get tier 6 intelligence if you can, tier 5 dexterity, those are your best prefixes. You need a tier 5 crit avoidance suffix here, and in combination with our blessing, you can cap your crit avoidance. We do want to get hard cap on our crit avoidance. We are not using Frostguard from Runic invocation that gives us 30% less damage taken. So that is the reason that I'm not taking advantage of this. This would require 2 tier 5 less damage taken from crits on your gear, and we cannot really get it here, we cannot really get it here, so we only have our belt available for it. It's a little bit tough to manage to cap your crit from that perspective, so I'm going for crit avoidance crit. Physical resistance on your rings is also very important. Monifrost is reducing our physical and cold resistance per 1 point of dexterity, so you need a little bit extra of those resistances to get them capped. So get tier 5 here, get tier 5 here, and if you get another tier 5 cold resistance, is also very important. You cannot roll physical resistance on your offhand catalyst, that's why we want physical resistance on our rings. Now for the offhand, we need Crystal Skull, get +6 spell crit here, and with the 9% flat we're getting from Runic invocation, when you hit about 95 intelligence, you will only need just a little bit spell crit to cap basically the 5 points here. If you put them here, you will be crit capped or very close to it. Alternatively, you would like to get a tier 2 spell crit chance affix sealed on your bone amulet. That will allow you to get more damage from your mage passive tree instead of getting the crit. For the Crystal Skull, Exalted Crit Multi and cast speed, best prefixes. Suffixes, get resistances, cold, poison or void resistance, whatever you need on the build. Bone Amulet is the best base for this build when it comes to amulets. A lot of nice physical and necrotic resistance. Tier 6 crit multi is very important. I would also say tier 7 increased spell damage is also incredibly strong, because spell damage scales our lightning, our fire, and also the cold damage that we are scaling through our flat cold damage from Morifrost. Suffixes, you need to get Straight Armor. It's very good. It's gonna boost your Straight Armor stacks a little bit more than your Mad Alchemist Ladle, because this is a low percentage chance, so you're not gonna be stacking a lot of them. And your second suffix is whatever resistances you want. Bone Cleaver is the best helmet you can get. It gives us a nice fat dexterity and intelligence, also nice necrotic resistance with a good roll on your Bone Cleaver when it comes to necrotic resistance, and your Bone Amulet, you're gonna be capped, so you don't have to worry about that. A little bit extra ward per second never hurts from the Bone Cleaver. And your Mad Alchemist Ladle, that's one of the main items that you would need for this build. it's pretty easy to get 1 LP on those ones. So when you get a couple of them with 1 LP, try to just slam them in Jura for tier 6 cast speed. That's the first affix you should get on your ladle. Now for the belt, there is a little bit of a weird scaling on this build. So I'm gonna talk about the suffixes first. We need cooldown recovery rate. That's the best suffix you can get. And we have one open suffix for either resistance, so that you can cap your resistances, or if you already have your resistances capped, you can get hybrid health or increased health. Both are really good. Seal the tier 1 cleanse on elements on poison use. That's very important. We don't have any other way of cleansing our elements. Now for the prefixes, you can get cold, lightning as exalted affixes. It doesn't really matter, both of them are gonna scale our damage. You can even get fire damage. All elemental damage basically scales this build. So on the belt, we have a little bit of flexibility. In my opinion, the two best are lightning and cold, because those gonna scale the majority of our hits from plasma. Now let's move to the idols. We're using Throne of Ambition. This is very good. We're getting a high armor mitigation from this. Right now on my setup with my runes up, I'm getting 3000 armor, as you can see here. That goes to up to 4.2, 4.3 with max Throne of Ambition stacks. So we're getting a very, very good mitigation from our armor. Now we are using the large idols that have as a prefix cast speed. When you have lightning edges, we always have lightning edges, so we're getting a lot of fat cast speed from those idols. It's really important. Now for the suffixes, this is where the flexibility of the build comes through the idols. You can roll all elemental resistances, you can roll cold resistance or lightning resistance, you can roll spell lightning damage, and even fire resistance. So you can use the suffixes of those 4 idols to help with whatever resistance you have issues. And also you can roll life, which is also pretty good. Flat spell or fire damage is also very nice. So just use whatever you need for your gear in order to get your resistance close to cap. We're using one Hammer Etheran Idol with chance split on hit. That's another element for our Matter Chemist ladle. The suffix is just whatever resistance you need, and another Hammer Idol because we are running out of space. Just vitality and extra resistance. For the blessings, we're gonna get crit strike multiplier from Black Sun. We're gonna get line resistance from Ending Storm from Lagoon. Now, if you manage to get your line resistance capped through your gear and your idols, you can skip that and go for the lightning resistance shred stacks, because you're gonna get max stacks all the time from this. It's not extremely important. If you need the resistance, just grab the resistance, don't worry. You have plenty of damage on the build, you're not gonna miss it. As I said, critical strike avoidance, you will need to roll a decent roll on this, probably about 65% plus. You can roll 35% here, and your crit avoidance, critical strike capped. Flat armor from Spirits of Fire and increased armor from the Age of Winter. You can get fire shred stacks on Spirits of Fire. That's another element, and also it's gonna scale our fire damage. But I do believe that the flat armor is far more important for your survivability, so I would heavily suggest getting that one. Okay, I think that's everything. Make sure that you are checking whatever the progression is on the build for your passives and for your skills, so that you know what's more important. One last thing that I want to mention when it comes to very high-end gear, Siphon of Anguish with minimum 2 LP is very good. It gives us increased leech rate and extra movement speed, which is a a stat that we don't scale a lot. Also, we're gonna get Doom on Hit, another element for Mad Alchemist, but you would need 2 LP on it, and you would need to hit Dexterity and Intelligence. That's not very easy. Also, you will need to fix your resistances if you do that. So it's something that it's very high end on your gear. Just keep in mind. Before you get all your 4 large idols, you can use grand idols like so. This is increased critical strike chance with lightning skills and extra fire damage on your suffix. You take advantage of both of them with Plasma Orb. It's a fire and lightning skill at the same time. And you can also use add-on idols with lightning damage while you have lightning edges, and increase lightning damage or extra health. So you do have a few options until you find very good idols, and you can mix and match during your progression. One more thing, if you get Bone Clamor with LP 1 or 2, some of the options that you can get is either Fire Penetration with Fire Invocation for extra flat armor. It's not for our penetration, but it's mostly for the flat armor, right? It's gonna give you more survivability. Runic Invocation levels are also very important, especially when they fix the more damage multipliers on it. Also, elemental damage scales all of our damage. And you can also go for Dexterity Slam. Dexterity is gonna give you a lot more flat, a lot more damage at the end, right? That's it for the gear. I'm gonna mention trying to get 400 plus crit strike multiplier. This is gonna give you over 40% crit multi on bosses from the Runemaster passive, so basically another tier 6 affix. We do need a lot of cast speed on this build. Now, when we're starting to get all of our buffs, as you can see, I'm sitting at 267, 247 cast speed. The ideal position on cast speed before the last letter patch that we got was about 285 to 295, but they fixed a timing issue with Runebolt. The build plays out very smoothly now at this amount of cast speed, and you don't need more. If you have a Mad Alchemist ladle with more than 1 LP, try to get something like this. This is a tier 7 spell damage, tier 5 cast speed, and you can get Blind or Chill. Those are 2 elements that we don't have easy access, and they're gonna boost your damage. But the increased spell damage that you can get on your wand is extremely important. It's gonna scale all of your damage in the build, so it's gonna help you a lot. This is an upgrade that you should get if you want to push over 400, 500 corruption, and it's gonna help you a lot, especially with a single target. Other than that, the build plays out very well. I already have one more video recorded with some echoes and bosses at 500 corruption. I'm also giving a few tips about the gameplay during echoes in there. If you want to check it out, it's gonna be on the description below. I want to make a more comprehensive showcase about how the build plays during echoes in the monoliths. One last thing, if you play the build, please give me your feedback. You can always come by my Twitch chat. It's twitch.tv/curseboy__. The link is gonna be in the description. You can always ask me questions there, and I'm happy to help. If I can help you improve the build, this is one of the best builds I've ever played. I've enjoyed it very much. I'm still playing it, and I'm gonna be pushing more arena and more corruption if you wanna watch it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye!